Hi, I'm Nico Savage, and this is the second video presentation, and I'm going to do my person on James Madison. He was a founding father. So I'm going to go into his early life, and then I'll work into challenges he faced and some personal essays he did, and we'll go on from there. So I'm going to start right now with some personal essays. Some something his background, his early background. So he was born on March 16th, 1751 in Port Conway, Virginia. His father was James Madison Sr. and his mother was Nellie Conway Madison. He grew up actually of the oldest of 12 children, seven brothers and four sisters. Only six would live to adulthood. So his family history with health was very in question to begin with, and he was already a little guy to begin with. His father was a tobacco planter and who also grew up on a plantation. His mother came from a very wealthy, also plantation owner. So, from age 11 to 16, he studied under Donald Robertson, which was a Scottish instructor, and that was a lot of prominent, like famous or wealthy plantation owners would send their children to him, and he learned mathematics, geography, and classical languages from him. And he became really good in speaking Latin and understanding it. At age 16, he went back to Montpelier, which back then people named their houses, like Thomas Jefferson named his house Monticello. So he then studied under Reverend Thomas Martin and for preparation for college. And a big thing in Virginia back then was for kids to go to William and Mary. That was the popular college back then. But due to his family and having a very frail health and very delicate health, and with all the mosquitoes running around, he thought that would be a bad idea. So he went to the College of New Jersey, which is now Princeton. Uh, a cool thing is one of his roommates was a poet named Felipe Freneau. And at Princeton, he learned Latin, Greek, and science, geography, mathematics, rhetoric, and philosophy. So he did that, and he graduated in 1771, and he returned back to Montpelier in 1772. And so he did a military service and realized that how small he was. He wasn't really going to do anything. He was weak, and he thought he would have a better career in politics rather than military. So we're going to jump to him being the father of the Constitution, just since there's so much information on this that we're just going to go straight to that. So after the colonies declared their independence from Britain in 1776, all the Articles of Confederation were made, and they were ratified in 1781. It gave most of the powers to individual state legislators who acted more like individual countries than the Union. So states had more power, separated from each other, and there wasn't a cohesive unit as a country. And since he took an extensive study of other world governments and came to the conclusion that America needed a strong federal government in order to help regulate the state legislatures and create a better system for raising federal money, he felt that government should be set up with a system of checks and balances, so no branch had greater power over the other. So in May 1787, delegates from each state, so they all went to the Constitutional Convention in Philadelphia, and Madison was able to present his ideas for his government, is known as the Virginia Plan, which now we have is the three branches of government. We have legislative, executive, and judicial. None of these were more powerful than the other. It was a checks and balances like he wanted, and this ended up letting him be the father of the Constitution. And so he wanted them to ratify this new Constitution that he made along with others. And so he needed 9 of the 13 states, and that was not an easy process since people were very skeptical of a government having so much power, or a one central government having so much power, and people were getting scared. So groups were being formed as the Federalists and the Anti-Federalists. Anti-Federalists not being a fan of this. Madison was a Federalist, and he had a strong role for this in his writing. So what he did, so this was a challenge for him, is that he felt that the United States needed a strong central government. And a challenge that he felt was that no one was getting on board. So him, Alexander Hamilton, and John Jay he was asked to be a part of the Federalists, which was a series of 85 essays produced between 1787 and 1788. He accounted for 29 of them, I believe, And I will read into two of them that I selected, one being one of the most important documents or essays in United States history, which is Federalist number 10. And I'll read some of it. It's very long, but I'll read some of it, and then I'll give you a description of it. One second. So I'll read some of it right now to you, and then we'll go on. So this is Federalist number 10. To the people of the state of New York, among the numerous advantages promised by a well-constructed union, none deserves to be more accurately developed than its tendency to break and control the violence of faction. The friend of popular governments never finds itself to so much alarmed for their character and fate as he contemplates their propensity to this dangerous vice. He will not fail, therefore, set due to value to any plan in which, without violating the principles to which he is attached, provides proper care. The instability, injustice, and confusion introduced to public councils have, in truth, been the mortal disease under which popular governments have everywhere perished, as they continue to be the favorite and fruitful topics from which the adversaries to liberty derive their most suspicious declamations. The valuable improvements made by American constitutions on the popular models, both ancient and modern, cannot certainly be too much admired, but it would be an unwarrantable partiality to contend that they have effectively obviated the danger on the side as he wished and expected. Complaints are everywhere heard from our most considerate and virtuous citizens, equally the friend of the public and private faith and public and personal liberty, that our governments are too unstable, and that public good is disregarded in the conflicts of rival parties, and that measures are too often decided not according to the rules of justice and the rights of the minor party, but by the superior force of an interested, overbearing majority. However, anxiously we may wish that these complaints had no foundation. The evidence of known facts will not permit us to deny that they are in some degree true. It will be found, indeed, on a candid review of our situation, that some of this distress on which we labor have been erroneously charged on the operation of our governments, but it will be found at the same time the other causes will not alone account for many of our heaviest misfortunes, in particular for the prevailing and increasing distrust of public engagements and alarm for private rights, which are echoed from one of the end contingent to the other. These must be chiefly, if not wholly, effects of the unsteadiness and injustice with which a factious spirit has tainted our public administrations. So what he means by that is, in the Federalist Paper number 10, James Madison addresses the question of how to guard against faction or groups of citizens with interests that oppose the rights of others, interests of the whole community. Madison argues that a large republic would be better defense against those dangers than small republics, such as individual states. From the beginning, he labels diversity of opinion in political life the most serious of factions, as it could lead to fundamental issues such as religion should be practiced. I'm going to stop right there. But he was a big advocate of freedom of religion, was huge on it, and he wanted that to be a big thing in the Constitution, that no one would be discriminated against by any chance because of their religion. He saw direct democracy as a danger to individual rights and advocated a representative democracy in order to protect the citizens' liberty from majority control. He then describes the two impractical methods to removing faction. First, destroying liberty, and the second, creating a society homogeneous in opinions and interests. Madison particularly emphasized that economic stratification prevents everyone from sharing the same opinion. Madison concludes that damage caused by the faction could be limited only by controlling its effects. Madison depicts how the pure democracy, every citizen votes directly for laws, and with republics, citizens vote for an elite of representatives who then vote for laws. It again shows his readers that the voice of the people pronounced by a body of representatives is more adaptable to the interest community. So I'm going to go right here. So Madison ended up becoming, I will go back to another Federalist Paper, number 14, shortly, but Madison ended up becoming Secretary of State of 1801 to 1809, or 1801 to 1809. Madison had a great friendship with Thomas Jefferson, and they continued to thrive. When Jefferson became the third president of the United States, he appointed Madison as Secretary of State, and Madison helped acquire the Louisiana Territory from the French, which was a huge deal for the United States because of the great things that came with that, and it doubled the size of America. In 1807, Madison and Jefferson enacted an embargo on oil trade with Britain and France. The two European countries were at war and angered America's neutrality. They had begun attacking U.S. ships. However, the embargo hurt America and its merchants and sailors more than Europe, which did not need American goods. And Jefferson ended the embargo in 1809. So Madison did end up becoming the president, and one thing that he had was the War of 1812. A lot of people disagree with this. He issued a war proclamation against Britain. However, America was not ready for, so this was a challenge that he wanted and he felt that was needed, but we were just not ready. And Congress said that there was not a properly funded government or an army for this, and they called it Mr. Madison's War. So this was one of the things that was looked down upon with James Madison's legacy. Um, so Madison did run for re-election against Federalist candidate DeWitt Clinton, who also supported an anti-war faction of the Democratic Republican Party, and won. Madison was often criticized and blamed for the difficulties stemming from the war. Trade stopped between the U.S. and Europe, hurting American merchants once again. So the Federalists undermined Madison's efforts, and Madison was forced to flee Washington, D.C. in August 1814. So he after the 2 terms of office, Madison left D.C. and returned to Montpelier with his wife, despite the challenges he encountered during his presidency. Madison was still respected as a great thinker and communicator and statesman. He remained active in various civic causes, and in 1826 became a rector of the University of Virginia. So he died at the age of 85 on June 28th at his own place in Montpelier. Thomas Jefferson did help him see the great thing of 2 parties that were needed. So he helped become part of the Democratic and Republican party system, which he was wary about. So I'm going to read to you a little bit of number 14, the Federalists. These papers were crucial to the signing of the Constitution, and people really did read them back then. I don't think they would be happy or be reading them now in today's society. So I'll read 14 a little bit. And there in which Republican government to a narrow district has been unfolded and refuted in preceding papers. I remark here only that it seems to owe its rise and prevalence chiefly to the confounding of a republic with democracy, applying to the former reasonings drawn from nature of the letter. The true distinction between those forms was also adverted to on a former occasion. It is that in democracy that people meet and exercise the government in person, and in republic they assemble to administer by their representatives, agents. A democracy consequently be confined to a small spot. A republic may extend over a large region. So what he says in this is comparing the gathering of democracy to that of republic. So he's comparing it to, in democracy, people meet and exercise government in person. In a republic, they assemble and administrate it through representatives. Thus, a small democracy is confined to a small spot, while a republic may expand it over a large region. Madison highlights how the sheer size of the United States would make it impossible to govern justly as a single country, opposed to a democracy where remote citizens assemble as often as their public functions demand. A republic will barely allow the representatives to meet as often and may be necessary for the administration of public affairs. Madison is sure to share if remote colonies should maintain less participation in union affairs compared to the less distant states. They will derive greater benefit from other respects, such as maintaining a stronger military for greater protection. So that was another essay that was helped sign the United States Constitution, and I'm going to go back to the Constitutional Convention, where he would really listen to everyone, and he took extensive notes about everything on ways to make it better every way possible. So one second, it just, as far as him being a president, he struggled a lot. But there's just so much information on this guy, and I feel like 15 minutes isn't a lot. But I will say that he really did have the hindsight to look at the 3 governments and overcome those challenges of getting people to sign it through essays with other people. Is amazing. So this is James Madison as much as I can do in 50 minutes, and thank you.